It all starts, you got to start somewhere. Like business, you can't, obviously we all have these sites where we want to hit massive numbers. Start with your passion first. It starts with a lemonade stand. My daughter and our neighbor's kids started with a lemonade stand, and I think they made like $20 or something like that. Just, it doesn't have to be big and monetary. It's just going to be something big in terms of what it means to you and your heart. That's the number one thing. That's the number one measure of how successful your fundraising event is. Over time, it's going to take time and years for anything to grow. Any event, be the biggest one. Don't set this massive number. And we're at a point now, 20, 25 years later, that I've done enough of these events where I can now set a monetary goal, because that's our end.
Okay, welcome fellow entrepreneurs and goal getters to Entrepreneurial Elevation, Unleashing Greatness Within, with myself, your host, Kelly Beveridge, and my friend and guest today, Alex. Super stoked to have on the call. We go way back, kind of around the same social circles back in childhood. And Alex is just a real cool guy. He's a married father of 3. Alex, I was creeping your Facebook and I saw that it was your 18-year anniversary the other day. So kudos to you there. Congrats.
Oh, funny story on that. And I was sitting at home, and a good friend of ours, Jeff and Christian Minton, he ended up posting congratulations or happy anniversary to his wife. But I saw it at 7:00 at night. The only reason I knew that, him and I both got married the same day. And it was about 7:00 at night. I looked, I'm like, oh shit. So my daughter and I ended up running to dollar store to grab whatever I could at 7:00 at night. And it was cool. She was awesome with it. She understands just, I'm just unbelievably busy and to fuck shit up. Like I tend to mess these up in terms of dates, birthdays, anniversaries, all that stuff.
Split in there in the 11th hour and you owe your buddy a beer or something for reminding you. That's awesome. Alex, the reason why I have Alex on the call today, speaking of him being really busy, is because he truly is. I mean, he's a serial entrepreneur and businessman in the oil and gas industry, investor. He does a lot of things in business, yet the reason why I have Alex on today is because I'm really inspired by him. I'm super inspired by you, Alex, with everything you do within the community. And that's really the context of the call today, is building the power of building communities, giving back, being of service, being involved with a charitable heart to just make an impact. And, 2012, you've raised $12 million through all the various things you've done, which is huge. I'm going to read a couple accolades, which I know makes you a little uncomfortable, yet you have the 3-time world record holder of the world's longest hockey game here in Canada. And most importantly, that's for the kids, where you've raised money for the Alberta Children's Hospital Foundation. You've been involved in countless other charities. We're talking 95% of what you do, people don't hear about. Yet there's things like the 100 Men Who Care in Chestermere, which is where you live. I know they have a women's group there too. You run a pond hockey championship that gives back, that's coming up in Christmas time, where 17,000 people come together. You have a nonprofit boxing club, which really is about, supporting and empowering and giving youth great life skills, so many other things. And so I just want to chat with you about this today, because I just think that to use more of people like you in the world, right? And, everybody gives back in their own way, yet you've really taken leadership, and I love that. So tell me, Alex, I want to actually go back to where it started. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Like, where did this attitude, mindset, philosophy of I'm going to help other people come about?
First, I went back to your comment there about me raising 12 million. I didn't raise 12 million. I came up with stupid ideas, and we had amazing volunteers that put it together to help achieve that goal. So I'm one of thousands of people that have been involved and just helping me accomplish these goals.
Absolutely. So village for sure.
In terms of, we grew up together, grew up in Northeast Calgary, grew up in Rundle, and then Leslie Pearson High School, right in Pine Ridge. And then from there, just played minor hockey right up until junior in Calgary, and then off to university. And I attribute sports to, and we grew up in an area, and for those that know Northeast Calgary, it's a bit of a rougher area, rough around the edges, call it. We had real parents that kept us in line, but it was sports that kept me on the straight and narrow, especially going to schools like Pearson or Forest Lawn or even Crescent Heights at the time, or Fowler. Like, it was easy to get sidetracked and get into trouble. And university, I was fortunate because I had some amazing coaches along the way, Bruno Bastiotto and Shannon Miller and a few other coaches that more or less gave me ultimatums along the way because I was making dumb choices. I think you were there some of these nights, Kelly, where we'd be out of Cowboys or whatever, and you make a dumb choice, and it was giving an ultimatum: pull your head out of your ass and play hockey, and we'll take you down this path in terms of university and stuff, or hang out with your buddies. And rest assured, you'll be off this hockey team. For motivation, I just stuck to hockey and went on to graduate university and sign pro. But after graduating, I never forgot those people. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for those people that helped me out, I never would have achieved what I did in terms of academics to that point. So it was from that point on where it was just going to be a couple little charity things. I think the first one was like a charity run that I did. And then from there, it just morphed. The sport of hockey is amazing. Whenever you throw an event, you have a couple volunteers or a bunch of teammates show up. I think that's what made the events easy to do. And then as we added more and more events over the years went on, now you're talking 20, 25 years later, our network of hockey just grew, and there's just more and more volunteers to keep these events going. So like I said earlier, I didn't raise the $12 million. It's the thousands of volunteers that have helped us along the way over the 2010. I'm not kidding. We're talking thousands of volunteers. Our last event alone was almost 2,300 volunteers for the world's longest games. Hats off to those people wanting to contribute and make a difference in a child's life.
Absolutely. I love it. So I love your story because it's like you saw the value of having, coaches in sports, which really are like mentors. I believe so much in having mentors in all areas of life. You're inspired to want to be mentors for, a kid. That's a big part of what we talked about too. And also, you didn't mention it, but I know we were chatting and you talked about growing up, like you always just loved helping. You just wanted to make sure your buddies were always okay. And I think playing sports instills so many awesome values, into us as children, even as a business owner.
It wasn't always helping people. I think in our generation, we were always raised, and like I said, the Northeast is different. We're different than any other quadrant in Calgary.
I agree.
And I was raised, because I was a bigger guy, and I had a different mindset, to protect my friend. And it wasn't only on the ice as an aggressive hockey player, but also off the ice, and protect my brother and my Marco and Luch and just all my buddies. Those are my brothers. I think that just transpired as I got older. Obviously, your mindset changes. You're not fighting anymore because now you realize the legalities and implications of what
you're going to channel it into something a little bit more positive.
And it turned into something different now. Rather than protecting my buddies physically on the ice or off the ice, it turned into protecting a child now with my emotions and my heart. And what it did. And you talk about youth. Yeah, if we do one of these events, I have guys that ask, why the hell do you do this? Why are you doing it? What do you get out of it? We get nothing out of it. But the best thing is if it helps one kid, and then he carries that forward for the next 20 years, and then he carries over, it takes the torch and continues to create more events. Now, I'm thankful because we've really touched the hearts of hundreds, if not thousands of kids over the course of the last 20, 25 years and kept it going. It's no secret. The world's changed. Like it's changed from when you and I were kids. Mm-hmm. People now, and I talk about this in that age gap of 27 to 37, they're a different generation than our generation. And I talk about the younger kids, it seems they get it. Like I deal with a lot of youth in their early 20s. That group seems to get it. It's just that one gap. So we're trying to avoid that gap again. And I'm not knocking anybody. There's a lot of good people out there. We're just trying to continue on that notion of caring again.
Yeah.
And helping others versus being self-centered and look at me. And I attribute a lot of this to social media. Social media is a bitch. Social media has changed a lot of people, especially that gap where people were measuring their self-worth by how many friends and how many likes they got and all this shit. Fuck. At the end of the day, your self-worth is how you make other people feel. What do you do to help the next person, in my opinion? It's not valued by how many likes, how many followers, or materialistic things that we own.
No, I agree.
Life's too short.
I say too, like myself, if I'm feeling down or feeling a bit depressed or just not myself, it's to just go do something for somebody else, and you cannot help but feel lifted, right? It up. And so that's the win when you give back, is just how we feel, how we feel about ourselves and, our worth too. I agree. But I'm curious, how do you decide where to put your time, effort, and energy, Alex? Because, involved in so many things, like you take a look at, okay, what am I passionate about? I love hockey. I love sport. So maybe I can raise funds that way. Or do you align with a certain charity and do a lot of stuff for Kids Cancer, and that pulls out your heartstrings? And then you're like, okay, what can we do to raise funds there? Like, how do you choose where to align?
Almost all of our events are unique in a sense. There's no one that really compares to them. So you'll talk about the world's longest hockey game. Other than us in Chestermere, Edmonton Oilers, or Edmonton, or in Buffalo, we're the only three in the world that have really attempted You look at, everyone does golf tournaments. Golf tournaments are just the norm. So we try to think of unique things. A big one coming up, actually, I know this is going to be aired in a few days, but we have, Canada's largest skeet shooting competition coming up, which is almost 400 individuals. It's something we started in 2023. And I founded the Chestermere Langdon Oilmen's Association, literally started with about 10 guys that used to go to Tim Hortons and have coffee. So we thought we'd make a logo and call ourselves the Oilmen's Association. And now we've morphed to over 600 members, which is pretty cool. So we started the skeet shoot where we literally would all go to Safeway, all 10 of us. You got potato salad, you got macaroni salad, you got buns, you got hot dogs. And then we used to go to the gun range just north of town in Carstairs and shoot some guns and then just cook off our tailgates. Now it's morphed to 450 people. And it went from raising a couple $100 to now raising hundreds of thousands of dollars every time we do this event. So we always try to do unique things. And a big part of it too, and a lot of people don't understand, I know that you get invited to all these charity tournaments in like June or July or August. Timing is the most important thing. And that I learned through business. Obviously in our business in oil and gas, we're always looking at fiscal year end and what do we do at year end. One of our largest charities is the Oil Olympics, which is a massive oil patch hockey tournament. And it's a matter of timing. And if you look at it, it falls at breakup. But it's the most important time because right around the end of Q1 is when most oil companies and service companies post fiscal years for the previous year.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tough when someone says, hey, we're just going to use ABC Oil and Gas. Just posted, they made $1 billion. Okay, we'll email the president, hey, congratulations on a great year. Hopefully all well. Replies back, hey, Alex, thanks so much for the kind words. Boom, with a reply, by the way, I got this thing coming up, and would you want to donate 10 grand? So a lot of it is timing. It's not just running the event. It's also timing and almost running it like a business to maximize how much we can truly raise for that charity that we're working with.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, I mean, I have many questions based on what you just shared, which is so great. So if you were talking to somebody who is like, I want to get to some of the events you're doing, but before we talk about those, say somebody is, I want to do something. I want to give back. I want to make a big impact, like in a bigger way. I'm not talking about giving $100 here or doing things like that, which by the way is amazing. Yeah, they want to do something big. What advice would you give them based on all your experience to look at? So what I just heard you say was, something unique, that timing so that you can get higher funds and fundraising handled with people. What are some other tips that you would give somebody if they're just going to get started in the first time they've never done something like this before?
It all starts, you got to start somewhere. Like business, you can't, obviously we all have these sites where we want to hit massive numbers. Start with your passion first. It starts with a lemonade stand. My daughter and our neighbor's kids started with a lemonade stand, and I think they made like $20 or something like that. Just, it doesn't have to be big and monetary. It's just going to be something big in terms of what it means to you and your heart. That's the number one thing. That's the number one measure of how successful your fundraising event is. Over time, it's going to take time and years for anything to grow. Any event, it'll be the biggest one. Don't set this massive number. And we're at a point now, 20, 25 years later, that I've done enough of these events where I can now set a monetary goal because that's our end goal. Right now, there's kids that are starting off or individuals starting off where 5, 10, 20, $30 goes a long way. And regardless, for any charity, it's still fun. We're now at a level now that with the groups that we work with that we've got it dialed in within the last 20, 25 years and the volunteers that we have to set huge monetary goals, like the world's longest game. We could set goals of $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million in 10 days. We've got to figure it out in the science in terms of our costs and gifting kind and all that stuff. And over the course of doing 2 or 3 events, you start to know who's who in the zoo and who to contact at what times to hit those goals. I would tell people just focus on what's near and dear to your heart. And regardless of what you raise, whether it's a penny or $10 million, but what's near and dear to your heart, and that's the ultimate success of your goal of how happy you are at the end of that event. So
I love it. So make sure you do it.
At the end of it, like we'll come in down the road. Like I will come in down the road if someone needs help. Here, what can I do to grow it? Then we'll think of unique ways to grow your event. But yeah, I'm so limited. Like I'm busy with my day-to-day job and 3 kids and a family. But it's getting tougher and tougher as I get older. That's why I'm hoping that next generation of kids coming in, and I'm hoping we have a succession plan for the hockey marathon, for example, because physically, I don't know if I can do it anymore. And mentally, it's a 2-year process just to plan the game, execute the game, and then wrap up the game. But thankfully, I got someone like Leslie Plumley, who's my work wife, I call her, to help me do these events. Both of us are going on in age. Like it's starting to to wear us. So after 4 games, and now it's just a matter of grooming that next generation to come in and don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's invented. So here we go. We've done it 4 times. Here's the recipe in the playbook. Execute. But we'll be in the back. Like, don't get me wrong. We're not going to let you suffer, but we'll be in the back to see this just continually grow.
Love it. So I like what you're saying. So it's like, first of all, just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, right? Be passionate about it. Start somewhere. And it's a process, right? It's a process to get to where you're at with what you're raising. And what you're also saying is like, you're not doing it alone. So chat a bit about that. I'd love to hear, it takes, we were saying, a village to put on some of these events that you're at now with how big they are. So like things I would love to know, what would you share when it comes to the volunteers, right? So how do you recruit volunteers? What's the impact of having volunteers that align with your vision for the charity event you're putting on? And then the second question is, who else do you need to partner with? Like, there's sponsors, there's what other kind of collaborations, and how do you create those relationships?
The volunteers, I'm going to say, as an event grows, I'm going to use the hockey marathon, for example, which is the world's longest game. The first time we did that event, people thought we were nuts. It was a 248-hour hockey game. And honestly, there's a bunch of hockey players that threw this game together, and we were going to run off pizza and beer for 10.5 days. And I think we had a couple hundred volunteers. How we did it, I have no idea. That was the hardest thing I ever did in my life, physically, mentally. It broke us. At the end of that game, I've never cried so much because we completed the game. I think we raised about $1.5 million, maybe $2 million that game for something that we just won it. At that point, I think that's when it touched people's heartstrings. So then that made it easier going forward. But then there came with costs. Like, we wanted to make certain, the players got to play in the game and we got a jersey, which was donated. But I wanted to make certain that everyone now in the event gets involved. So now you look at fast forward 12 years later, we team up with companies, and a lot of these companies have good heart. They have good heart. But on any dollar they give out, they want to see a return on investment. Mm-hmm. There has to be some sort of return on investment, or they're not going to give you any money. Yeah, they feel good, and there's someone in the community relations team whose job is to donate money. But at the end of the day, what do we get for it? And it's always advertising. So now it works out in a way to offset our costs. And you talk about the world's longest game. For us to operate that game and the way I set it up, it would be about $680,000 to run that game. We managed to run that game for about $100,000.
Wow.
Just through gift in kind. So basically that's an extra $500,000 that actually goes straight to the charity versus having to shell out. So once you create an event and it gets momentum, and thankfully our group has built enough of a name throughout our events, people now want to donate, whether it be light towers, fuel, food, cots, curtains, Band-Aids, and we're talking everything. You have no idea how much kids donated. So it just takes time. It takes time. And I tell you, don't be impatient. And you go back to wanting to help others. I run by a golden rule. Do unto others, you want others to do unto you. And I never forget who volunteered at our events. Okay, and I've run, hundreds of events. I have a full list of all of our volunteers. So Leslie has been amazing, and she keeps track of everything and all that. What drives me nuts, though, is people that ask for help, but have never yet to volunteer for an event. So I just went through this the other day. I had a good friend of mine, an amazing buddy of mine. I grew up with my whole life. We talk all the time. I said, hey, would you mind donating to my kid's soccer team? I said, for what? I said, we want to do this. I said, that's great. Did you realize I've done about 100 events and never volunteered for one? And this is the thing. I'm not a dick. Okay, I'm not a dick. I'm loyal to this guy. But at the same time, there's 15 other parents on that team. And I did. I took the time to look who CEOs on the team. And I look at the last names and okay, I don't know any of these people. No, I'm sorry, I'm not. He said, what do you mean you're not? I said, why would I help you raise money? I just did a world's longest game, or I just did pond hockey. There's 15 parents on your team, and not one of your parents have ever decided to volunteer. All I asked for was 1 hour of their time. But no, I'm not going to reciprocate it. Yeah, I'm not punishing the kids. This is more of a wake-up call to those parents. I said, go back to your parents and let them know why. Hey, I'm not being a dick. Whether they like me or not, I don't care. My circle is very small. Okay, I have my 10 friends. I don't need any more friends. So whether or not you like me for my answer or not, but hopefully that encourages somebody to say, you know what, he's right. Who are we to ask for $1 when all he was asking for was an hour of our time to help fill water bottles or to help clean the ice or do something? I don't know, I'm sidetracking, but yeah, no, we are out to help others as much as possible. But when you come to adults, we're talking 40, 45, 50-year-olds. No, like, you want others to do unto you. I will volunteer at your events. I'll do this and that. But just remember, if I ever need you for an event, please reciprocate it and help us out. So you kind of grow your network.
To what you're talking about, though, because, on events like you're putting on, not everybody's going to step into that role of leadership. Like, that takes leadership, that takes vision, that takes somebody who's willing to do whatever it takes, passion. I mean, that you've created influence within the community. People want to follow what you're up to. That is a scary role to take on for a lot of people. They won't be willing to do it. That being said, what people can do is donate $20, is show up, and there's always something that somebody can do to participate and give back in their realm.
I don't necessarily need the $20.
Yeah.
Your time is more valuable than the money.
Yeah.
Your time is more valuable. Everyone's time is more valuable than anything monetary. Give me 10 minutes of your time.
Yeah.
So starting to see some good things. I'm really starting to notice a huge shift in people's mindset in the last couple of years in terms of volunteering and wanting to get involved, which is awesome compared to the last, say, 5 to 7 years, where I found people really back there, self-centered, egotistical. And it got to a point, I remember I was trying to hand off a couple events. And this is where I knew people were changing. And our events are big in magnitude. It was the last 2020 longest game of the year was. And I wanted to hand it off at the time because I was getting tired. And I just, don't want this to go away. And I said, hey, I want you to take over. And the first question out of their mouth, what do I get paid? How are you fucking kidding me? You get paid. Don't be unpaid. No one gets paid here. This is volunteer. We have 2,400 volunteers here that run this game. That's the biggest thing is transparency when you do these events as well. So we run these events. We don't even have a bank account. Hockey Marathon is just a fake name, which I probably should register at some point. Now that I just said it on here, it's just a name we came up with and a logo. That's it. Like, we don't have a bank account. We don't have any legal entity. We're just a fake name with a Facebook account is all it was. It's also aligning yourselves with, and trust is a big thing in the community right now. So it's aligning yourselves with organizations that are reputable and whatnot. And I work with a lot of the bigger ones, which is the Children's Hospital, Alberta Cancer, and all that. But let them handle everything. Let them handle all the funds with everything. And that's just my thoughts on it. You never want to get tied up with, especially cash. Like, obviously we have our own companies that we run here, oil and gas, and we have our accountants that are accountable for everything. I'm not an accountant, nor am I going to start being one. At that point, we just work with the Children's Hospital. I know because they're accountable for every dollar that goes in and out, and issuing tax receipts and all that stuff. I know I'm kind of sidetracking here, but just lining yourself up with the right people, whether it be from the charity right through to your volunteers.
I ask like your thoughts, and because you kind of done something around volunteers, because I really want people, I agree. Like, I think volunteering, there's something so special about it. And, especially now with mental health being such a big issue, being so prevalent, I believe giving back and volunteering can be a big part of the cure for that. And I know that we say, volunteer, because it's all about who we're volunteering for. Yes. Although I think it's okay to also say, and you're going to get something from it too. It's not a financial reward. It's mental health. It's feeling better about yourself. It's uplifting energy. It's all of these things. It's being a part of community. It's having a sense of belonging. There's so many reasons to volunteer. What would you say to people? Like, why volunteer, right? You're obviously very good at bringing people together. I mean, you're 17,000 people together for the pond hockey game. So like, why volunteer if you were to answer that?
Hey, for sure. And we talked about this earlier. Like, the average life expectancy now, people need to put this in perspective. Our average life expectancy now just got adjusted a couple of weeks with 71.8 years. Kelly, you and I are spring chickens. Like, we're almost 50 years old. And I'm not being morbid here by saying this. We know about, call it 22 years of being able to walk and wipe our own asses. Okay? In reality, hopefully you can walk and wipe your own ass for a lot longer than that. But on average, it's 71.8 years. And the reason I volunteer is to help the next person. Like, whether you're religious or not, God put us on this earth not to just worry about ourselves. I have a lot of wealthy friends that are fucking ignorant as hell. They only care about themselves. At the end of the day, when you're dead and you're going in that box, that money ain't going with you. That money isn't going anywhere with you. And rest assured, within a year, most people are going to forget about you. They not forget about you fully, but they're just going to move on with their lives. Within a week, people are going to move on with their lives within a week. So if I can make an impact in the time that I'm here on this earth right now, and help life, which whether or not I'm ever talked about ever again after I'm gone, I don't care. It means something to me now. Yeah, at some point you do. It does in terms of mental health and all. We talk about mental health and we touch base on it later and addiction and all that stuff. For me, it's hard because obviously doing all these events, and I'll tell you right now, the world's longest game over the last 4 years has really messed me up after every game. And the reason being, you feel amazing with the group that organizing the game. I feel phenomenal playing the game. I feel elated when we're playing the game and meeting all these kids with cancer. But then my problem is I gravitate to these kids. I love working with kids. The problem I have a hard time after is knowing that I'm going home after, and I'm blessed with healthy kids, and I'm blessed with good health now. But some of these kids don't survive. And then it really messes me up for about 6 months to a year after. Because about 6 months to a year after that, I'm doing funeral after funeral. And I know it's good for my soul and it's good for my mental health because it fires me up to do another event. But why are you doing another one? Because you know what? Cancer's still here.
Yeah.
Cancer hasn't gone anywhere. It's actually gone worse. And again, it's not attributed. It's just the world we live in. Everything is preservatives and additives. And just for us to be able to keep up with world demand with everything we need from earphones to cups and all that, it's just chemical. So it's not going to go anywhere, especially in North America. So yeah, in terms of mental health, it isn't going anywhere. It makes me feel good knowing that every day I get up, I can try to help somebody, whether it's an adult or a kid, whether raising $1 or buying somebody a sandwich. That's the big one. And again, we go back to that. It's channeling how you want to deal with it. Like, I'm not a drinker. You're not a drinker. I don't do drugs. You don't do drugs. If I'm not doing a charity event, my endorphin release is going to the gym. It's a matter of how you channel it. And I don't care who you are. I don't give a shit who you are. Everybody deals with mental health. As much as we all post on social media, look at me, I'm big and strong and tough. And I got this fancy shoes and I got this nice purse and I got this fancy boat. Everybody deals with mental health. Everybody does. Not everyone, no one's immune to deal with mental health, whether you're a billionaire or if you're only worth $1.
Yeah.
Everybody deals with mental health, and it's just a matter how you want to deal with it and channel it. And for me, it's just working with others, and especially with kids. They're hitting the gym,
Love that, Alex. That's awesome. What would you say? You talked about the world's longest hockey game. What are a couple of your other favorite events or charities that you've put on? I mean, you've done so many, but can you pick out a couple where you're like, oh man, this one was close to my heart, and what did you learn about yourself through the process?
So we talked about earlier about just doing something small. Don't worry about the big goal. So we talked about the pond hockey tournament. It was about, 8 years ago or so. My kid wanted to play pond hockey. So I got on my quad, made 2 little rinks. I think we had like 8 kids. And by the end of the weekend, we had like 40 kids here. So, okay, we did it for the winter. The next year, text a couple dads, hey, let's build 4 rinks. So we went to 4 rinks. So, but now we had a lot of kids. Okay, hold up, let's make some teams. We made some teams and we did a little mini tournament. By our 3rd year, we were at 9 rinks. And then by our 4th year, we were at 17 rinks. And now it was like a legitimate tournament. But now it started to catch the eye of the people. And that's when Tim Horton's down the road. So hold up, what's going on here? So we got a big tournament when we're pond hockey tournament. What is it? So honestly, we don't know what it is. It's just a pond hockey tournament. So then Tim Hortons came on board and said, we love this. And helped us. And they didn't even give us money. I said, all I wanted is Timbits and hot chocolate. And they did. They fucking, because now we're talking like 200-300 kids. Mom and dad are there. Dads are on the snowmobiles and their quads. So Tim Hortons came down with like thousands of Timbits and hundreds of hot chocolate. And then it morphed to be the Tim Hortons Western Canadian Pond Hockey Championship. So that's kind of, it happened. So they said, you always start with something small. And here's the best one. And for those that know hockey, it's called Hockey Fights Cancer. Mm-hmm. So that started long before the NHL took it. How that actually started was a guy on our team who's also helped me start on hockey marathon. Lyle Marshall. I don't know if you remember Lyle Marshall.
I know Lyle and Sarah. Sarah's one of my best friends.
Yeah. So when we started, this is when his wife passed away, we started a little hockey tournament just to raise money for cancer. And I remember when we did it at Chestermere Rec Center. And we had a silent auction. We were going to raise some money for cancer. And we did it for a couple of years. I think our first year we raised $150,000, which was amazing. It was huge. And we tried to get help, corporate help. No one will brushed it off. Again, it started as a small vision. Over the course of 3 or 4 years, it blew up. And as more and more guys were retiring from the NHL, they started coming to the tournament. More of a networking thing, right? Because who's who in oil and gas will tell you that. Again, 6 or 7 years later, who took over the whole program? The NHL. Now it's called Hockey Fight Cancer. Unfortunately, no one knows the history of it and how it started, but that's where it started. That's where the whole concept started.
I actually didn't even know that. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So start with something small. Like we did at pond hockey with a couple small rinks. And then, and I encourage people, if they go on Western Canadian Pond Hockey Championship, you'll see how much more. We're talking We're up to 16 rinks now, 1,000 kids, 17,000 people a day. Like, it turned into something pretty cool. And don't get me wrong, I've completely screwed my Christmas. I'm talking December 23rd to December 31st. For the last 8 years, I've had some shitty years where it was minus 40 and thinking, all right, we're going to cancel this event. So all the teams, and literally 100% of the team said, no, we're not canceling.
Wow.
Because in their eyes, they can still run in and warm up. I can't warm up. I got to fucking stay outside for 12 hours. But it's still, you know what? We never canceled the event. It's just kept going. And I'm hoping in the next year or two, I can hand it off to somebody. But again, it's the time. Someone needs to have the time. And said, I'm very fortunate I have the right group of buddies that will help me out and run this event. So that'd probably be my most unique one. So between hockey marathon and pond hockey, they're all unique in a way. They all morphed. But it takes time. Some of these things take 5, 10, 15 years. Yeah. But they all went on to be some pretty cool things.
I like your story, though. It's do things for the right reason, lead with your heart. And when you're living life that way, like, things will morph into what they're meant to be. Like, you started pond hockey because you just wanted to be a good dad to your kid. You know, the neighborhood guys got together and said, this is awesome. And it just grew. And I think people are always like, I like to choose to be, I'm an internal optimist. So I like to believe people are always looking for things they can do to contribute and add value. A lot of people just don't know what to do or how to do it. So if they have something they can plug into, right? It's kind of see in your story too, is you started something for the right reasons. You're leading with the heart, you know, growing. More people see it, the energy, it's like the vibration, like people want to be a part of it. Then Tim Horton says, like, we're going to contribute. You start to attract, like, attracts like positivity attracts positivity, and it just grows and it grows and it grows. It didn't start out that way, yet you were always leading with your heart, and you can never go wrong when you do that, even if it hadn't turned out to be what it is today. Pretty cool that it did. So I love your message, is just get started and do things for the right reasons.
And even if it didn't morph to what they were.
Yeah.
Like the hockey marathon, the world's longest hockey game, was never intended to be what it was.
Yeah.
It was literally us doing a game, and I'll give you the story on that. Diamond, Lyle's daughter, was battling cancer at the time. And then I remember my brother had cancer at the exact same time, not stage 4 cancer. But we all played hockey together, Lyle and all the guys. And I remember going to see my brother, and we're talking a 200-pound healthy guy with cancer, and I seen how sick he was. And I sit there, and obviously I feel bad. He's my brother, and I look at his kids and you cry. And then I'm like, I can't imagine what Diamond's going through. If this healthy 30-some-year-old man is suffering this much, I can't imagine what a kid's going through. And that's when I called Lyle. I said, listen, we've got to do something. He's wanted, let's just do a hockey game. And I said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know, let's look up something stupid. And I looked up world's longest hockey game. It was like 240 hours at the time or something like that. And what do we do? I said, let me call the Edmonton Oilers. They're the ones that run it. Thinking there's no way these guys are going to get back from me. Man, I called Brent's sake. The guy gave me everything. He thought, because he was already done it like 5 times, he was excited to see that somebody else wants to compete against them because they were breaking their own record. So I called him up and he gave me the recipe. Here you go. Now we modified the schedule a little bit. We modernized it, call it, because I looked at it. There's no fucking way I can play 10 hours straight. This is impossible. Like, I need a break at some point. So we broke it up into 4-hour shifts and all that. So we did it back and forth, Edmonton, Calgary. All of a sudden, I get a call from the Buffalo, a guy named Mike, who was with Mike and all those guys, and said, hey, we want to do the world's longest game. Screw you guys in Calgary and Edmonton. Holy fuck, this is awesome. We called Brent's sake in Edmonton. Buffalo now wants to throw their hat in the ring. And then it morphed. Unfortunately, now we've gotten older. The number has just kept climbing and climbing. Not monetary, we're talking the number of hours.
Yeah.
So I just did the last one, and they reached out and went, how was it? I said, honestly, it was hell. It was fucking hell, man. It was, as we get closer to 50, everything.
I'm sure people like lifetime injuries from participating in it.
And we're there. Like, that game was 4 or 5 months ago, and I still can't feel my fingers and toes. I know I'm going to get them back in September, October. It happens every time that I've discovered fibers in my body I never even knew I had. And again, it's just starting with something small and stupid, and if it doesn't morph into anything, who gives a shit? It was something I enjoyed doing. Like, fuck, I remember the memories. I remember as soon as that game was done and I looked out, I thought I was playing university or junior hockey again. There's like 2,000 people here watching this. And it was, we didn't have social media. It was all through just phone calls and text messages. It was right when Facebook was just kicking off, and there was no Instagram around back then. So it was kind of cool, and then I just kept going. every couple of years after that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How has doing all this charity work, Alex, impacted your family? Like your kiddos are watching you, kind of that whole saying, don't do as I say, do as I do. Like they're like, what's their take now on giving back and, of service to others? I'm sure it's had a huge impact on your kids.
It has on both family and kids positively, because almost all my events are geared towards children.
Mm-hmm.
So I can always have my children involved in every single event. Like, if you look at all of our events, other than our golf tournament, I always make certain none of our events involve alcohol. That's one thing for me. I never involve alcohol in any of our events, because I want to make certain that you could bring your 6-month-old or you could bring your 13-year-old. And I preach on people on this. I'm not knocking anyone for drinking or any of that. Like I said, we've all drank, but I always want to make sure when I run these events, it's family friendly, 100% family friendly for the right reasons. And I want people to come there and just enjoy themselves. So yeah, my kids have been involved in every single event, and just as all the other volunteers. Like we do the world's longest game. Yeah, we talked about 2,300 volunteers. I bet you 600 or 700 of them are people's kids. And we never turn a volunteer away. I don't care if you're 4 years old or if you're 104 years old. We never turn it away. We started creating positions at all of our events for all ages. Like Leslie would say, well, this lady wants to bring her 6-year-old to volunteer. Well, what can we do? I said, I don't know. I said, we need water bottle fillers. We need someone to grab a sandwich. So let's call it a bench liaison. So now that kid shows up, 6 years old, he gets a t-shirt, and ATCA was our sponsor for all of our t-shirts. So these kids get shirts, and now they're part of the game. At 6 years old, they're part of the world's longest hockey game. So we've never, ever, ever turned away a volunteer. And I remember some days, I remember looking over one time, and there was like 20 people wearing yellow shirts. And I looked over, and I was happy, and I was like, that's a lot of volunteers. I'm like, we'll never turn anyone away. I'd rather them standing around here right now, just saying they're part of this game, and then hopefully when they go home, it empowers them or fires them up to say, you know what, I'm going to do something. I want to do an event as well. So we'll never, ever turn away a volunteer. Yeah, a lot of days we have way too many volunteers, but whatever is awesome, because hopefully one of those people now turns around and does an event of some sort. It could be anything. It could be out just shoveling sidewalks. Like, fuck, it doesn't have to be raising money. It just should be something good in the community. So.
Yeah, for sure. Creating a ripple effect, right? Like a ripple effect in like everyone's life, which is super cool. What would you say? I know like you're doing all of this and it's about bringing people together, building communities, making a difference. Yet you're at the stage now too, where it really is about raising money too, because that money can make a big impact. What would you say are just like out of all the events you've done in your experience, what are some tips around fundraising that those people who are listening can take away from your, years of experience here?
Be a couple of things. Number one, make it unique. Think of something absolutely unique. Because I said, golf tournaments are fine. They're good, but there's 1,000 of them. There's thousands and thousands. I get invited to, countless golf tournaments. So make it something unique. Like I said, for us, a world longest hockey game. I'm only going to name a couple of the bigger ones. Skeet shooting, which is a big one. Pond hockey experience is a big one. And we try to think of things unique. There's yet to be a massive fishing one, for example. Here's a cool one I'm working on. I actually want to work on a fundraiser, but sturgeon fishing. I just literally started this today. I just got the contact of a person today that is a pretty good guide, and I'm just gonna right there. I'm just looking at it right here. So I just got the contact of a gentleman, and I am going to call him and to think of something unique. I'm not going to just throw a golf tournament. So they're telling me about how they're doing sturgeon fishing. And usually I go to BC to sturgeon fish, but I'm starting to see the size of some of the fishing on northern Alberta. But you know what? I'm going to start something different. So my next one, now this is stuff I enjoy. Now I'm going to enjoy it. Things that I can physically enjoy now without actually killing myself.
Yeah. Up your alley and playing hundreds of hours of hockey in a row?
Yeah. I would say that you do things that are unique. The second most, and don't set your targets so big. It's going to take time. It might take 5, 10, 15 years, but who cares? If you only raise a couple $1,000s every year, that's fine. It's still a couple $1,000s that they never had. The second thing is your timing as well. Timing as to when, because if after a certain point when that event starts to grow, make sure you start off at a time where you know your target audience. My target audience is oil and gas. Yeah, that's primarily my target audience. Also, some of the bigger construction companies. So typically their fiscal year end is December 31st of that year. So a lot of my events will typically take place in March and April, because at that point, a lot of them will have announce their fiscal year earnings for the previous year by about the middle or end of March. And if you look at the hockey marathon, we only raised about 300 or 400 grand before the game. We did it April 10th, but it was throughout the game when I was really hitting these guys up, emailing them, hey, congratulations on your year, and the money started piling in. So I would look at your timing and having a unique event. That's the most important thing.
What would you say, and I don't think you have this problem anymore yet. I know, like, I'm even raising money right now for something. I'm doing Bike Ride for Cancer. And I'm pretty good at it too, because I've raised a lot of money as well, nothing near what you do. Yet people's mindsets around like
not what I do, it's what the volunteers do.
What the volunteers do. But around people's mind, people have funny energy with money. So it's like, what would you say to the people who have the idea, they have the vision, they're excited for it, and they're like, oh crap, now I got to start raising money.
Again, who cares? Don't. You're going to raise at least $100. If you raise $100, who gives a shit? Do what's good for your heart. So we're at a different level now. I've been doing this for 24 years, in oil and gas. So I'm fortunate. And you're just like me. I'm not a shy person. You're not a shy person. So I've been able to build my network over the last, 48 years. I don't even know how we met. You went to Crescent, I went to Pearson, but somehow we ended up meeting each other along the way. And we're probably two loudest people at the club at the time. So everyone's built different. Everyone's unique. You might only know one person. Who cares? That person gives you $100, you still raise $100.
Yeah.
Don't get hung up on the monetary value. It's going to take time, year after year. And if you continue running an event year after year, eventually people are going to notice and say, you know what? Shit, I haven't sponsored Kelly in the last 3 years. I should probably sponsor because it's something near and dear to her. And here I'm going to give her $20 or I'm going to give her $50 or $100. Don't get hung up on the monetary value. Do something that's passionate and near and dear to your heart. That's all it is. At the end of the day, it's about doing good for others. And the money will come. These organizations will find their money. The $100 you got them is $100 they never had before.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always like to tell people too, like, you're in your stuff about, it takes courage sometimes for people if they've never done it before to start reaching out and asking and getting rejected and all that stuff. It's like you're in it. It's like you're just making it about yourself. So take your energy off of you and make it about the reason why you're doing it in the first place, which is for the kids or for whatever the charity's for, or, whatever you're doing to make the difference. So Alex, I have a few more questions I want to ask, but is there anything before we talk about what you might have in coming up, where to find you, my last few questions, anything else you want to share just around building community, building charities, giving back?
No, in the things we do, I just ask people to measure their self-worth, how they feel about themselves, not how others feel about them. Whether you do an event and you think I didn't have people tell me some of my ideas were stupid. I don't care if you don't like my idea. Still going to fucking do the idea. Yeah. It's an idea that I think is going to work. And if I raise $1, great. If I don't, I never finish this. And you talk about personal, it was never about personal achievements as well. Like in terms of how I'm going to go buy this car because I wonder what Kelly's going to think. I don't give a fuck what Kelly thinks. I've never bought anything. Don't measure yourself worth by material things or how people view you in life. At the end of the day, it's how you view yourself. And obviously your children and your spouse, all that stuff. But maybe the number one thing in life, man, is just teaching yourself to love yourself and the things that you do for yourself and your heart. I know I'm trying to explain it. It's just not coming out in words.
No, you understand. I'm picking up what you're putting down. So, you're doing a good job.
Yeah. But I think that's our generation. That's our generation of 70s babies where we were told, if you said something to me, I just look at you like, screw you, Kelly. I don't give a shit what you think. This generation is a lot different now. And I have kids. I have young kids. And my daughter will come home upset. Like, what's wrong? So said this to me. Why? For some reason it bugs her. This generation is different now. And I get it's attributed to social media and all that. Yeah. It's just a matter of breaking that mold. And I'm pretty old school with my kids. My kids are now at a point now they don't really care what you think about them. As long as they work their asses off, they do good in school and they're honest, they now understand that their value in life is how they feel about themselves, not what somebody else says about them. Kids are hurtful now. This generation is different now, kids. And I'm not condoning this, but in our generation, if you said something stupid to me, not you so much, but if a guy did, punch him in the face. And be quickly. This generation is a lot different.
Gen X is a little bit different. We're built a little bit different.
And they always say, Mike Tyson, everyone's tough till they get punched in the face. This generation is different. That's why we have to raise them different now. We have to raise them with more confidence because they can't react the way we used to 30, 40 years ago. When my kid sits there, Noah, and he and my buddies are always telling stories, and he sits there like, there's no way that. I'm like, you have no idea, growing up in the Northeast, how much we resolve things just by the way we did. And now the world's changed now. We can't do that anymore because the laws have changed. There's more technology and the implications of your actions are a lot worse now. You can't travel and shit. So now we had to adapt. It's not just a matter of ability.
I love it too. Like kiddos nowadays, right? Like it's just, they're so impressionable because, you know, of what is out there. And like you're saying, social media and like how to channel their feelings. And so on that note, maybe chat about, you know, have your boxing club. And I think this would maybe be a good segue into just having you promote that, because that's a great space for youth who, you know, a positive outlet, need community, are looking for their tribe, you know, and hang out and be together. So maybe chat about the boxing club and why you started it. And then just where can people find all the different charities and everything you're up to, Alex, if they want to participate, if they want to volunteer, if they want to contribute financially?
So the boxing club's a unique one. Obviously, if you go back 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the boxing clubs were around to keep kids out of trouble. That hasn't changed. You still, at the end of the day, boxing is a poor man's sport. You really need nothing. $50 pair of gloves last you a couple of years and that's it. We created a boxing club in Chestermere, which is now a registered not-for-profit. It was shortly after COVID and a lot of things. Kids' confidence was down. Like during COVID, no one was able to leave their house. So some of these kids were trapped in their houses for 2 years. And you see a lot of kids walking around with masks. Why? A lot of them put on a ton of weight, because they sat there for 2 years playing video games or they were doing online schooling. So Admission came as an avenue, as an outlet, a big one for near and dear to my heart. I work closely with the parole board, so there was a lot of kids that were just getting out of trouble and needed an outlet or an opportunity or a positive role model. So now my coaches are pretty amazing guys. And the second, just fitness. I'm big into fitness. Yeah, I'm a bigger guy, but I'm just big into fitness, and boxing is something different. It was about breaking that mold about, when I tell people, hey, send your kid to boxing, right away they immediately think Rocky Balboa. It's not like that. We also do pad work and stuff. And in the short 3 years that we had it, we're now the largest boxing club in Alberta. So we're now got almost 200 kids involved. And the one way we run our club differently than others. We never turn a kid away. We never, ever turn a kid away. So about 30% of our kids don't pay a membership. This is where it becomes unique. Okay, if you, Kelly, come, you want to join it, but mom and dad can't really afford it. It isn't a lot of money. I think $75 a month or something compared to other sports. If your mom and dad can't afford it, that's fine. Here's the deal. In lieu, you got to volunteer 10 hours a month. And I'll take you out, whether it's picking garbage, whether it's cleaning around the rec center. So it's giving these kids value. I will train you 7 days a week. And we're almost at 200 kids now in the program. That's half the size of minor hockey for a small town. But in lieu, you have to volunteer. So it's another way of instilling work ethic into kids, discipline, but at the same time giving back to the community. So it's grown. I'm going to be very careful in some of the stories. I'm not going to tell you certain stories, but it's touched a lot of heart just because there's kids involved and stuff.
Yeah.
It's touched a lot of heartstrings with individuals, whether in the RCMP, at City Hall, with our youth outreach groups, the food bank, the Women's Crisis Society. We all work closely together, and these programs are all interlinked. So ours, we specifically, at that point, they help us funding. They help us keep the funding going. It's something near and dear to me. It's funny because people think I own a boxing club for a living. Just to let people know there's no money in boxing. Unless you're Canelo or Mike Tyson or one of the big dudes, there's no money in boxing. So it's just something that's near and dear to my heart. And yeah, it ends up taking 20 to 30 hours a week sometimes. You know, even this weekend coming up, we got a big fight card. I think this week alone is probably going to be almost 50 hours of my week dedicated to this club. So it's just something that's near and dear to me, because when I look at those kids, that was me 30 years ago. That was that hothead kid that had a short temper, that was getting in shit. But I fortunately had a coach that believed in me, that helped me channel that energy in a different way. And that's what we do for these kids. And we've got some unique kids with unique stories. And they just need that person. And I'm not blaming parents at all. The world has changed. It's at a point now, and I'm not getting into the government right now, but it's at a point now where it costs so much to live in Canada that both parents have to work.
Yeah.
You know, so parents have to survive. So a lot of them are working stupid hours, and these kids have nothing to do from the hours of say 4 to 6 because mom and dad are still at work. Now we're that option. Whether you want to pay for it or not, you're that option. We're that option. Send your kid to us. We'll make sure they're not going to get shit from 4 to 6. And I guarantee you, by the time you get home for dinner, these kids are going to be so tired, they don't have time or energy to get in shit after that. They're going to eat your homework and go to bed. So it's a win-win for the whole community. And the community's been amazing. It's been amazing. And obviously you have members like social media guys like Logan Paul and those guys that have blown the sport back up now through social media, and it's starting to get a little bit of traction. You know, as much as you get frustrated and say, how does a social media guy make hundreds of millions of dollars and he's not a real boxer? He's done a lot for the sport. He's done a lot for the sport, and we'll continue to grow it. It's pretty near and dear to my heart, and continue to go from there. But in terms of all of our other events, they're so sporadic. I would just tell people, again, I'm not looking for social media followers at all, but if you look me up on Facebook, Alex Halet, or on Instagram, Alex Halet, I constantly post them. One unique one we have now is called 100 Men. I mimic this off the women, and this is why women are smarter than men. They created this program called 100 Women, and what they do is they meet 4 times a year. It's 100 women, and they bring in charities every quarter, and they present, and then the women vote, and they all donate $100 to a charitable tax organization directly online. Like I said, I don't want to handle money. I don't want to handle anything. So these women had a website. I contacted them. I said, I love your idea. I was a recipient of a couple of times for charities that I've been on. I said, I want to create 100 men. I said, okay, let's do it. So here's the problem. Like, what? I'm like, I don't know how to do a website. So can you just throw our logo on you? They were great. Kim was amazing. They helped us get it going. And I did a couple posts, and you'd be amazed how many people jumped on. So again, this is something stupid. It's just really dumb. But if I get to 100 men, that's $10,000 a quarter to some charity 4 times a year. So we can kick back. Again, it's just a matter of but we also turn it into a social aspect too. So we're going to do it at a local pub in town. Hey, we have a meeting on, say, July 5th. Let's do it. I'll bring 2 charities. Let's all vote. So just follow me on social media. We always got unique events coming up. And I promise you, they're events that'll be fun. They're all fun events. I'm not knocking golf or any of that stuff, but I don't throw golf tournaments. So we want to do things that are enjoyable and memorable for everyone, and at the same time give back to the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, Alex, I love everything that you just shared. I mean, you're so great at just taking an idea and putting it into action, which I love about you. You have such a huge heart, man. You're just doing everything for the right reasons, and you have a gift. I know you don't like the accolades, but you literally have a gift, because most of what you touch, and I know we didn't talk about challenges and obstacles and everything you had to overcome along the way. Yeah, most of what you touch now, it's like you have this experience. You know, I believe like you throw this one great event, like you've learned how to do it, right? It's a part of your wheelhouse now, and you're just making such a massive impact and touching so many people's lives. I'm inspired by you. You've touched my life. I've donated to some things. I've come and watched something. I'm going to come volunteer for something. So there you go. You got another volunteer. But it's really cool to see a friend doing such great things in the community. So thank you.
And I don't want any accolades. I never do. And none of this, I'm telling you, would be possible without all the volunteers.
Yeah.
If anything,
shout out to all of the volunteers who've helped.
Shout out to them.
Yeah.
Like Leslie and I will think of it. Like, I'll always call Leslie with something stupid. Like right now, she's in South Carolina, and I was just texting with her right now, and I'll come up with something stupid, and she's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Let's try it."
You're the idea guy. She's got to put it together. That's why she's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah. So she's got to do it. I'm like, "All right, Leslie, we need a website. We need this. Let's see what happens." So we come up with a dumb idea, but it wouldn't be possible without the volunteers, and hats off to all of them. They deserve all the accolades, all the recognition, everything. And I'm hoping the next generation comes in and starts taking over all this stuff. Like, we're ready to hand off everything to the next crop, and they are. We've got some really solid up and coming kids in our industry that all of a sudden that got their hearts in it for the right place. And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, things are looking really good. And at that point, I could just go to the event and enjoy it and go home right after, versus having to sit up and stuff like that. So no, it's awesome. I say that, but I know they're always going to come up with something stupid and something unique, and you continue to just stay busy.
Oh, so, for sure. You know. Hey, so closing, I always have 3 just quick questions at the end here. And for everybody who's listening, I'll put where you can find Alex in my show notes as well. So I'll get a few links from him. So if you want to donate or volunteer or whatnot, you can follow up with him easily. So Alex, in one sentence or so, what would you say would be your definition of success today after everything you've experienced in life?
My definition of success is probably, this is not about events that I've run at the community, but my definition of success is how many people we've impacted over the last 25 years in terms of my biggest one would probably be saving the life of a child. So with every dollar we have goes towards the Alberta Children's Hospital or Brown Bag. I don't care which. We've worked with probably almost 60 or 70 children's charities now, is just impacting the life of one child. Yeah. And I'd love to see where some of these children have been. Like, we started this 25 years ago. Some of these kids are probably in their 30s now. I'd love to see where they ended up in life. That's probably the biggest measure of success.
Cool. I love it. I love it. And what would you say? So my podcast, Unleashing Greatness Within, what would be 3 things that you think contribute to being able to unleash someone's greatness?
Do something that's passionate to you. If that makes sense. Work with a charity that's near and dear to your heart. It might not align with all your friends or your contact, but do something that aligns with your feelings and your connection to a certain charity. That'll help justify your measuring your self-worth, knowing that you did something to help something that means near and dear to you, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's cancer in children. The reason being because I lived it with my brother. So I lived it with Diamond Marshall, and unfortunately through our friends, many have passed away through cancer. So for me, it's cancer. That's why I do these events, because cancer is near and dear to me. And that's why. So it could be anything. It could be the food bank. It could be, we've all got things in our lives that have impacted us differently. Whether someone is in tough times, has used the food bank, all of a sudden things have turned around, finally got some money, could put food on the table. You know what? I'm going to go back and help those that help me. It could be anything. We all have different stories in our lives. So do something that's affected you in your life at some point that's near and dear to you. It might not align with something that I care for, or you care for, or anybody else cares for. But you know what? As long as it means something to you, do it.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. People are listening to this episode and they're inspired and they get off the episode. And what would be a call to action that you would tell them to go and do this week?
Call to action? Oh, man. I don't even know how to answer that one. How do you feel about yourself? Start looking at yourself and your self-worth. Mm-hmm. And what can I do differently to feel better about myself? And start working on not caring what others think about you. It's just the reality of our world now. Social media has completely fucked up our world in the worst way. In North America. I've traveled the world. Ellie, you've traveled the world a lot. You've traveled to Africa. And I imagine you go to some remote areas. Do you think those kids are the same as our kids? No, they're not. They don't care what other people on Facebook or TikTok or Snapchat and think. People need to start looking at themselves and not worried about what other people think about them. So whether it's your hair, the shape of your body, your materialistic things like that. And I blame it all on social media. How people need to pull away from that shit and just start looking at their self-worth and be happy with who they are and start ignoring negative shit in their lives, negative people that are toxic in their lives. So they said, we're here for a short time. We're not here for a long time. We're here for 71.8 years, and you'll attest to this and I'll attest to it. The last 48 years flew by pretty fucking quick. Pretty quick. Enjoy what we have left on this world. Because I'm not being morbid, but it can be gone at any time. So be happy with yourself, be happy with your family. And if you do have the time and energy, try to make an impact in someone else's life that is less fortunate.
I love it.
If you don't, yourself, your most important thing in the world is you.
Yeah, that's a great message, Alex. Like, just go inward and take care of yourself, right? To the best of your ability, and then go and do something kind for someone else. And if all it is can be, I always just say to people, if all you got right now in you is to just smile at somebody while you're walking down the street, great. Start there, right? Yet start somewhere. Start with yourself and start somewhere giving back. And so, Alex, thanks for being on today. I just appreciate your time. I know a super busy guy. Appreciate you. I'm glad we've reconnected and stayed in each other's social circles, and stay in touch. And just thanks for your message today. Appreciate you.
I got all the time in the world for you, Cal, at any time. And this is great. This is a great show. And I hope that your show continues to grow and impact people just right around the world.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. What an inspiration Alex is. I know he doesn't like the accolades, and it is true, it takes a village, yet it takes somebody who has the vision and the foresight and the courage to put the idea into action and then gather the troops to make it happen. And that's what Alex does. And so if you get anything from today's episode, I really hope you're inspired to be somebody who contributes positively to your community and those around you and makes this world a better place. And there's so many ways that you can do that. You can give money, you can give financially. That always helps, yet you don't have to. You could also give through your time. You can volunteer, find something you're passionate about and go and give some time. You could do acts of service, right? It could be something as simple as I was saying, smile at people as you walk past them. If you're at the grocery store, go and put the cart back in where the trolleys are. Like, just do something nice for somebody because, bring somebody a coffee. It really is just about being outward focused, looking at where you can make a difference in other people's lives, and do this within the community and watch communities change. And I just think that's so cool. Man, Alex, he's just so inspiring. Alex, thanks for being you and doing everything that you do. I'm really inspired from our conversation today. And it's just so fun having buddies on the call. I love this. I keep saying call, episode. You guys all know what I mean. And hey, just if you tuned in and listened, I know that was a little bit of a longer podcast than usual. Just appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for listening. Go ahead and like and comment if there's anything that you want to add or share. Would love to hear from you. With love, greatness, and success, it's your host, Kelly Beveridge.